is brought to you by the Patterns of Possibility, where we help people make more meaningful relationships in both their personal and professional life. Hi, I'm Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I want to welcome you to the Engaged Employee Podcast. Our mission is to emphasize the relationship between the employee and the workplace with the goal of enhancing engagement levels to create a more productive and satisfying work environment. While many organizations strive to create a more engaging atmosphere, they often miss the mark by forcing connection with big team building events like axe throwing or escape rooms. Those activities only leave employees with a short-lived sense of belonging. Organizations may also try smaller and more suffocating events like happy hours or group birthday celebrations that their employees feel obligated to attend. As a social connections and business culture coach, I've found that to create a stable, engaged, and productive workforce, there needs to be a shift in focus from mandatory fun and manufactured connection towards building trust and authentic conversation. Join me and a guest as we dive into social wellness strategies for the individual employee, techniques for developing interpersonal relationships with coworkers, and even some approaches for leaders to enrich the overall organizational culture. The Engaged Employee Podcast starts now. Welcome to the Engaged Employee Podcast. My name is Coach Lee, and my guest today is NicAnne Lamoureux. NicAnne Lamoureux is the founder and CEO of Angel Assistance Group, where she combines 3 decades of expertise in leadership, team building, and professional development to advocate for living authentically. She was named one of the top 20 life coaches of 2023 by U.S. Reporter and featured in NYC Journal's Top 50 Under 50. As a deaf cancer survivor, migrant, and parent of trans children, she draws on her personal and professional experiences to coach professionals, support parents of LGBTQIA+ youth, and provide corporate DEI counseling. NicAnne helps organizations realize that true wellness and company culture must embrace support of all identities, including transgendered and disabled individuals. In addition to her work with organizations, NicAnne also supports her community through volunteer work, mentoring college students and incarcerated women to prepare for reentry. Our conversation today will be focused on wellness for the company culture at large. NicAnne, welcome to the Engaged Employee Podcast.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here. And as we were talking behind the scenes, when we first met through LinkedIn, I was like, oh, we're talking to a person and a really cool person. You reached out to me, instantly reached back to me. I appreciate that. But as we were talking here, we were talking about the fact that you're deaf. I read that in the captions. I read that in your introduction. And I was like, how are you talking to me?
Yes.
Can you? Yeah.
Technology is great, right? And my day job is actually chief of staff in a generative AI company, and we work a lot in technology and being able to have these tools available these days make it so much easier for me to continue my role in the workforce and as a coach without having a lot of barriers that were in place 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a joy to be able to talk to you, and I'm glad. So for this technology, so then obviously this is a huge part of your life with disability, engaging, inclusion. Can you tell us how you found yourself in this expertise?
Yeah, so I actually have a 30-year career in the corporate world. I started off as a receptionist in a real estate office in small town New Zealand. And I now work, as I said, as chief of staff for the CEO of a Gen IA company here in America. I live in Texas. And I started my company back in 2020. I was laid off from Bridgewater Associates, where I had been for 9 years, and was blessed with a very substantial separation package that allowed me to really focus on what I love in life, which is to mentor and coach and develop others. And that's also part of my memoir, which will be coming out hopefully at the end of this year, which is designed to really show people that you can overcome adversity and you can be disabled, you can be different in some way, you can go through trauma and really succeed and survive. And that's the message I'm trying to pass on to people. And then we focus, as you said, a lot of our work on DEI consulting for corporations. When a bunch of able-bodied people sit around and make processes and design things, they come up with these great ideas, but they don't hit the same barriers that disabled people hit. And so one of my jobs, one of the things I love going into companies and saying, hey, I couldn't get past the first step, and quite often with a lot of companies, the first step is a phone call. How does a deaf person call you?
Right.
So it's really getting in there and figuring out, what are you doing? Are you aware that this is a barrier for disabled people? Are you aware that you're excluding people of different genders with your language or your behaviors, and helping companies work through that?
Right. So you started because this is your own personal journey that helped you get to this point where you faced all of these barriers, much like how I started this podcast and reaching out to people, my own coaching company, because I struggled with making meaningful relationships and connections and in the workplace and outside of the workplace. And I wanted to educate people on how you can do better, how you can create those connections that you're looking for, or how you can reach your audience if you need to, or how you can better serve those people who are working for you, your employees. So bring awareness to that. I'd be curious to know, what are some of the skills or techniques that you teach some of the organizations? How do you help them solve their problems?
I think awareness is the big thing, right? I had very little awareness, especially when it comes to transgender rights. I'm not transgender. I didn't know how that worked. And so when my children came out as transgender in their preteens, I had to do a lot of learning very quickly. And so a lot of it is my lived experience, bringing that to corporations, bringing that to businesses, and teaching people things that they just may not be aware of. And it's not that they mean to be ignorant in any way, it's just that they don't know what they don't know. And so having somebody come in who has gone through that process in their lived life and had to figure these things out, and God bless my children for helping me learn so much about the transgender community and how I can be a better advocate for them and for people like them in the workplace. That has really driven my passion for transgender rights. Then, of course, being deaf, that clearly is my driver for disability inclusion. And again, the lived experience here. There's a lot of courses you can take on DEI, but I am a huge proponent of using the tools that people live through the school of hard knocks. As awful as that sounds, sometimes it really is stronger and better for your organization to be pulling on the experiences of somebody who truly lives it rather than somebody who's being taught in a book.
Yes, I love that. I'm one of those people who learns from experience, and I think it's really important to have experiential learning when you're trying to get new information or you're trying to get a concept to stick. It really does help to either live through somebody's experiences to help you with that or have it yourself. And so I one of the things that I noticed, I have so much curiosity about you and your experiences of sure, but a really great demonstration of how you incorporate what you do is by visiting your website. So when you visit your website, it's just plain. And there's a reason for that. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, so we have an inclusion pledge. One of my friends is deafblind, and they made me very aware of the fact that the website, as I initially designed it, was not being picked up well by screen readers. And so I have made the pledge that I don't have a lot of animated, fancy, pretty content. There isn't video content that isn't captioned on my website, so that deaf people can be included in what we're doing, so that blind people can be included in what we're doing. I try to make sure my language is all inclusive of all genders and it's not female, male, gender specific. So little things like that to make sure that our platform is inclusive for everybody, that everybody can have equal access to the information that I have on the website. Everybody has equal opportunity to be able to contact me and work with me and have conversations like this, where they don't feel like they're different or special. They're just human and they are treated with respect and dignity.
Yes, I really like that. I really like not being pointed out as you are the person that needs to teach me. I'm a transgendered man myself, and so with that, some people said, "Well, you can teach me things," and no thanks. I don't want to. I don't want to teach my life experience. I'm still experiencing things, and I remember having my own experiences where I didn't know of inclusive language, even being as a transgendered person. I didn't know the inclusive language, so I don't know everything. So I just want to put this out here as like a big kudos to you for wanting to help advocate and wanting to help educate because sometimes it's a difficult position to be in.
Yeah, and you think about simple things like feminine hygiene products. Not everybody that uses those products is a female. And,
Mhm.
that little tweak in your language in the corporate environment can make all the difference to your transgender employees. It really can.
Absolutely. So I was going to ask you, what is an actionable step that an organization can take today to help them create a more supportive workplace for inclusive, more supportive and inclusive workplace?
Yeah, so I guess I gave you a bonus one there because that
I did.
wasn't the one I intended to talk about. Uh, the one that I really talk about with my clients, my corporate clients, and it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of them, but it's a zero tolerance policy, especially if you have transgender employees. Zero tolerance to having other employees deadening them, use the wrong pronouns, refuse to address them by the pronouns that align with their gender identity. If you allow employees to dead name your transgender employees, that is alienating them and it's discrimination and it's awful. Above everything else, it's just not right. So I really am a huge advocate for zero tolerance discrimination. That includes dead naming. Dead naming is discrimination. Using the wrong pronouns is discrimination. And so I really push that on my corporate clients and encourage them, even if they take baby steps to get there, like this is a very clear, actionable thing that you can do to show your transgender employees that you care, you really have their back, and you are going to put your foot down and make sure that they feel comfortable in your workplace.
Wow, that is a really great place to start because we are really hardworking people as individuals who want to work for a company. We want to contribute just as much as anyone else does. We want to feel included in the workplace as well. I love that idea. And I wanted to ask you too, kind of let this slip by, but you have a memoir that's coming out.
I do. So it's called I Light Up My Therapist, and I call it the backstory to what you see on social media. It's the tale that got me to where I am today, and a lot of people have heard snippets of my life story. They've heard one tale from maybe when I was 19, another tale from when I was 28, or another tale from my 30s,
Hmm.
and I've had people my whole life feel like, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. So when I was laid off in 2020 and I was between jobs for about 6 weeks, and I decided I was going to go back to school, finish my bachelor's degree. I never got to graduate college because I got pregnant. And so I went back and I did that. And at the same time, I started working on my memoir. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to release at the end of this year, 2024. Um, it's being published by Paul Smith Publishing in London, and I'm super excited to get it out. It's very vulnerable. It's very, you said at the beginning of my intro, I encourage people to live authentically, and this book is a hold nothing back. This is the unfiltered story of my life, and I don't wish my background on anyone. I wouldn't wish any one of the 30 traumatic things I've gone through in life on anybody, but I'm hoping that everyone can find a part of it that they can resonate with and realize they're not alone. And it's okay. And kind of my tagline for the book is, we may be scarred, but we're not broken. And I want people to take that message away when they read my book.
We are not scarred. We are scarred, but we're not broken. Broken. We're scarred, but we're not broken. I love that feeling. It's not over. We can still build. We can still do something. And so I was going to ask you for a little tidbit of the book, but I won't. I won't. Instead, I'm going to ask you, where can my audience find you? Where can they connect with you?
Oh, yeah. So I have the company website, angelassistancegroup.com. We are not religious. I just want to put that out there. Some other people see the word angel and they think it's religious. My father's birth name was Angel, and so I named the company after him. I'm also on Facebook. On LinkedIn. It's just /NicAnne. There's only one of NicAnne that has that handle on LinkedIn, so it's easy to find me. The company also has a LinkedIn profile as well. We are on Instagram for the memoir, which I know we were not prepared to discuss. I just kind of slipped out in conversation. So I Lie to My Therapist, all is one word, on Instagram. I'm starting to share little pieces of the book and some photos and things like that, which will hopefully make it into publication.
All right, wonderful. I want to thank you so much. I am so looking forward to this book, I Lied to My Therapist. I can wait, I guess, for that. And I appreciate all the work that you do to advocate for a more connected and inclusive workspace. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it. Another insightful episode of the Employee Podcast. Employee engagement, leadership, and workplace dynamics. The Engaged Employee Podcast is brought to you by the Patterns of Possibility, where we help people make more meaningful relationships in both their personal and professional life. Before we wrap up, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our incredible guests and, of course, our loyal listeners. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you valuable content each week. If you found today's discussion thought-provoking and want to learn more about how we can help you or your organization make more meaningful relationships, go to patternsofpossibility.com and book a friendly conversation with me. Or you can email me your questions at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. Stay connected with us and engage with fellow listeners by following the Patterns of Possibility on LinkedIn. You can also catch us on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay in the loop. And if you prefer the audio version, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your support means the world to us, and by subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. Thank you for being a part of our journey to create workplaces where passion meets productivity. Until next time, I'm Coach Lee. Stay engaged, stay inspired.